Hello everyone and welcome to Mobility Academy. I'm the flexibility guy, Coach Elia, and in today's video I want to talk to you about a common question I often get asked, which is how often should I stretch? A lot of people ask me, maybe because they pull a muscle or maybe because they get sore after a flexibility workout and they don't know why. So they ask me, how often should I stretch? Am I doing it correctly? And it's a really interesting question here, and for this reason I'm going to explain to you how often should you stretch, okay? But before I start, let me ask you to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications if you're new, so you'll never miss one of my next videos, okay? With that said, let's start. Alright guys, so this will be a really theoretical lesson because as you can see I'm not in my gym, I am in my studio. And now let's talk about how often should you stretch. When you think about how often should you stretch, you should take into consideration two main things, okay? The first thing is the intensity of a stretching position. So the first keyword is intensity. Now, when I say intensity, I mean how hard do you feel the stretch in that particular stretching position, okay? So I often ask my students, how hard do you feel this stretch here? And I want to be as clear as possible with them. So I always take as an example a scale which goes from 0 to 10. And I ask them from 0 to 10, how hard do you feel this stretch here? And now, when you think about intensity, so you need to think about how hard do you feel a stretching position. So when you are in a stretching position, you should think about that. And on that intensity scale, which goes from 0 to 10, how hard do you feel the stretch? Now, you should feel the stretch at an intensity which goes from 6 to 9 on that scale, okay? So not below 6, because in that way the stretch is so easy that your body won't adapt to the stimulus because it's too easy. It's like lifting really light weights. In that way, you're not going to train your muscles in the proper way because the weights you're using are too light. And in the same way, you don't want to stretch at an intensity which is above 9, so from 9 to 10, because the stimulus is too hard, so your body can't adapt to that stimulus. It's like lifting a weight which you can't move. You're not training in that way because the weight is so heavy, so you can't move that and you're not going to adapt to that kind of training, okay? So this is the first keyword, intensity. Now, the second keyword, the second thing you should take into consideration to understand how often should you stretch is the frequency. Now, frequency means how often you stretch during the week. Okay, so maybe you stretch 4 days a week, 3 days a week, 2 days a week, every day, I don't know, but you should take into account that, okay? So the frequency is how often you stretch. Okay, so now we have the two main things that may bring you the best results in flexibility training and will allow you to understand how often should you stretch. So the intensity and the frequency. Now, you should understand that the higher the intensity, the lower the frequency, and vice versa, okay? So if you use a high intensity stretch, you should do it at low frequency, so not every day, maybe 1 or 2 days a week, and vice versa. So what I try to do is to go hard, maybe a couple of days a week, where I work on the hard stretching positions. Also, I myself and my students on hard stretching positions maybe a couple of times a week, And so this is a low frequency workout. And on the other days, maybe 3-4 days a week, I train with medium to low intensity, and this is a high frequency training. Okay, so you should combine the two things to get the best results possible in your flexibility training. Now, I know that these concepts aren't easy, but I also think that you should keep things simple. So you know what is intensity and you know what is frequency. Now, you should take into account the frequency of your workouts at first. So you should train frequently to get the best results possible, but you should adapt the intensity of your stretching positions to the frequency of your workouts. Okay, so maybe a couple of times a week you go with your hard stretches, you try to stay there, giving your best in those stretching positions you're working on, but on the other days you want to keep the intensity low. Okay, so you just stay there, you don't go at your max range of motion, but you still stay in the stretching positions to let your body adapt to those kind of ranges of motion. Okay, does it make sense, guys? Now, I really love to answer to your questions. This is a really frequently asked question: how often should I stretch? A lot of times people ask me this question here, and I hope that with the information you have found in this video here, you have a clear idea of the situation. Okay, now if you have any further questions regarding flexibility training or any other kind of topic I'm dealing with my students, and of course with my own practice, so flexibility training, handstands and bodyweight training, please let me know in the comments down below. Okay, now that's all from the flexibility guy, Coach Elia. Thank you so much for watching, have a nice stretch, and see you in the next video.